Chapter 1054. Yuntian Tower. Chu Luiwei repeated the name in her mind. So, that's the name of Rong Xiu's family? When the few people beside him heard this, they all quieted down. Even in the dark tunnel, it wasn't hard for Chu Luiwei to sense the slightly tense atmosphere. Even Lin Tianfeng's expression was unprecedentedly solemn and serious. It was obvious that everyone was more or less nervous. Soon, a strange fluctuation came from the front. Chu Luiwei subconsciously held her breath. With a burst of pressure, the sky lit up. Stepping on the thick ground, Chu Luiwei's heart calmed down a little. She was not used to the glaring sunlight and squinted her eyes slightly. After a while, she looked around. In front of her was an azure sea. The waves sparkled, pure and vast. In the distance, islands of different sizes floated quietly in the air, surrounded by smoke. It was like a fairyland. The sky was a clear, light blue. Where the water met the sky, it was almost impossible to tell whether the blue was the sky or the sea. There was a faint sweet smell in the air that refreshed the heart and refreshed the mind, making the entire body feel comfortable. Chu Luiwei was secretly shocked. The density and purity of the heaven and earth origin force here was something she had never seen before. At this moment, she heard a dignified voice. Heavenly Cave Cliff? Chu Luiwei paused and turned to look in the direction of the voice. Beside the teleportation formation, there were a few guards in black armor. The one who spoke seemed to be of a higher rank, and his aura was stronger than the others. On the left chest of their armor, there was a strange pattern engraved. This should be the totem of the Yuntian Tower. Chu Luiwei looked at it and felt that it was somewhat familiar. Lin Tianfeng cupped his hands and smiled. Lin Tianfeng of Heavenly Cave Cliff has led the clan to congratulate His Highness the Holy Sun on his birthday. The leader cupped his fists and said politely, "Greetings, Patriarch Lin." The people behind him also bowed in unison. Chu Luiwei looked on from behind with some amusement. Although these people were very polite to Lin Tianfeng, they did not seem to put themselves down. Lin Tianfeng also treated them with great respect, and his attitude was clearly different from that of ordinary guards. The Yuntian Tower was indeed extraordinary. These soldiers were obviously treating him like this because he was a member of the Yuntian Tower. When a clan was strong to a certain extent, everyone would be respected. This was the right to speak that came with strength. "Patriarch Lin, why are you so late? His Highness's birthday banquet is in a few hours. If you were any later, you wouldn't even be able to go to the main island." Lin hurriedly. "I'm sorry, we did not meet. There was a problem with the teleportation formation earlier, so it was delayed." The soldier shook his head. "Forget it. Since there's still some time left, all of you, why is there a child?" He looked at Lin Tianfeng and frowned slightly. "Patriarch Lin, I don't remember you having such a young child." Lin Tianfeng hurriedly waved his hand in denial. "It's a misunderstanding. This child is not my Lin family's, but Miss Dugu's. She is my son Ji Fei's personal celestial physician, so she came with us." Many people knew that Lin Tianfeng favored his youngest son, Lin Qifei. It was rumored that he had always wanted to pass the position of patriarch to Lin Qifei. Unfortunately, Lin Qifei was born with a weak body and was a medicine jar. Many people were not very optimistic about this matter. However, Lin Tianfeng's attitude had not changed. It was expected that he would bring Lin Qifei and his personal celestial physician. But the personal celestial physician was one thing, but why did he bring a child? "Patriarch Lin, although this child doesn't take up a slot, it seems inappropriate for you to do this. This is the birthday banquet of His Highness the Holy Sun, and it's also a concubine selection ceremony." Lin Tianfeng coughed and lowered his voice. "This, you don't know, but Miss Dugu has no relatives or friends, and it's really hard for her to take care of a child. I can't let her leave the child behind. I promise, I won't let the child run around and cause any trouble. How about you make an exception?" Seeing that Lin Tianfeng was pleading for leniency, the soldier could not say anything more. "If that's the case, then please be careful, Patriarch Lin. You also know that this is Yuntian Tower." When he said the last sentence, the soldier's voice became more serious, with a hint of authority. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly thanked him. The soldier waved his hand. The people of the other tribes have already arrived. You should go as well. Although Heavenly Cave Cliff was considered to be at the bottom of these tribes, they still had to do what they were supposed to do. After that, he waved his sleeve slightly, and a palm-sized white jade token appeared in the air. The token was engraved with the totem of the Yuntian Tower, and the edges were decorated with auspicious clouds. It shone brightly. The soldier said in a deep voice, "The Lin clan of Heavenly Cave Cliff has arrived. Leader, please send someone to receive us." As soon as he finished speaking, a faint buzzing sound came from the token. Soon after, a silver ray of light flew out and extended in another direction. Chu Luiwei and the others looked in the direction of the stream of light. They saw a huge island floating quietly in the distance. It seemed to be at the center of this place, and it was also the largest island here. Whether it was in terms of scale or aura, it was indisputably a top existence. That should be the main island they were talking about, right? Just as this thought flashed through Chu Luiwei's mind, a stream of light suddenly flew out of the main island. Compared to the stream of light on the token, that stream of light was obviously much more majestic. Not long after, the two streams of light connected in midair, forming a bridge. "Everyone please." Lin Tianfeng was the first to leap up and land on the bridge. The rest of the people followed closely behind. The elders were still fine. After all, they had seen a lot of the world, so they were still calm at this time. However, even though the women tried their best to appear calm, the corners of their eyes and brows could not hide the excitement and curiosity. It was their first time here. The Yuntian Tower was a place that was unreachable for them. Now, using this opportunity, they could actually come here. It was like a dream. Chu Luiwei led Dugamabao and was the last to go up. "Let's go." Lin Tianfeng took the lead and walked forward. At the same time, Rong Xiu was reading in the study. Suddenly, he paused and his thin lips curled into a faint smile. "You're finally here." With that, he stood up and walked outside. Yan Qing saw this and quickly followed. "Your Highness, do you really want to go personally now? How about this subordinate go first? Now that there are people outside, it is inevitable that His Highness will be seen." Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. "I naturally have to go personally to welcome my own princess." Chapter 1055. Yan Qing cursed in her heart. His words were like gold and jade. He had already said that she was the princess, but he still wanted to hold a consort selection hall with great fanfare, as if it was real. When that person came and saw this scene, who knew what kind of reaction she would have? But since His Highness had decided to do this as subordinates, they could only follow his orders. In a short time, countless possible scenes flashed through Yan Qing's mind. Perhaps he should also think about how he would not be implicated by His Highness when the time came. However, just as the master and servant walked out, before they could move, Umo hurried back from outside. "Your Highness." Seeing Rong Xiu, Umo hurriedly bowed. "Your Highness, Miss Jiang is here. She is waiting outside the hall at this moment, saying that she has something important to discuss with you personally." He did not mention her background or name. Just Miss Jiang was enough to explain who she was. This could only prove that this person's status was extremely high, and it was obvious who she was referring to. Rong Xiu did not stop walking, and his expression was indifferent. "Let her wait." Umo was stunned for a moment. He looked up in surprise and glanced at Rong Xiu. It would be fine if His Highness did not want to see anyone else, but this person. Then, Umo had a flash of inspiration as he suddenly thought of something. Could it be? He quickly looked at Yan Qing. Yan Qing nodded calmly. Umo understood. No wonder. It was really that person who came. Umo immediately swallowed the words in his throat. Since that person was here, everyone else had to step back. However, not long after Rong Xiu walked out, a sweet and gentle woman's voice was heard. "Your Highness, where are you going? You are in such a hurry that you don't even want to see me?" Rong Xiu stopped and looked sideways. A woman dressed in a long white dress was standing there charmingly. She was slender, and there were no extra accessories on her body. Only a thin blue jade belt around her waist outlined the curves of a young girl. Her face was like a peach, and her facial features were perfect. The most moving thing was the gentleness in her watery eyes. Her fine black hair was tied up in an exquisite bun with a sapphire dangling from it. She tilted her head slightly and shook it gently, as if she could stir people's hearts. Rong Xiu narrowed his eyes and said calmly, "Jianghu, why you here?" As he spoke, his gaze fell on Umo. Umo was shocked and hurriedly said, "Your Highness, this subordinate asked eldest young Miss Jiang to wait outside and did not invite her in. This subordinate also does not know why she is here." The soldiers who were standing guard at the side were stunned. Only then did they realize that they seemed to have done something wrong. They hurriedly knelt down. "Your Highness, I have already set the rules. Without I's permission, no one is allowed to enter or leave this place. It seems like you guys don't have a good memory. Your Highness, please spare my life, Your Highness. Strip him of his position and flog him 100 times. Rong Xiu's voice was cold. "It's in front of the main hall. Carry it out immediately." Hearing his words, the soldiers' faces turned pale and they fell to the ground. "It's over." The smile on Jiang Jiwan's face froze. "Your Highness, what are you doing?" "They only let me in because they saw that it was me. In the past, I could come and go freely when I came here. I have never, that was in the past." Rong Xiu looked at her deeply. "When the clan leader lived here, you could do whatever you wanted. But now, this is I's palace. Naturally, I have the final say. I believe that this time, eldest young Miss Jiang should also remember this rule, right?" Digression, continue at 6 p.m. The list of names for August's periphery will be announced tomorrow. Chapter 1056. Jiang Jiwan's face slowly turned red. Tears welled up in her eyes and the tip of her nose stung. She bit her lip and tried to calm herself down, but her voice still sounded like she was about to cry. "I didn't know Your Highness hated me so much." Originally, she was overjoyed when she came here. Her mind was filled with thoughts of what would happen after their meeting. She rarely came here in the past few years. She hadn't seen Rong Xiu for 2 years. She had imagined countless scenarios, but none of them were as embarrassing as the one before her. Her face felt like it was on fire. It was burning with pain. The gazes of the people around her were like steel needles piercing her body. She wished she could disappear from this place immediately. She didn't expect that he would embarrass her like this. Compared to Jiang Jiwan's shock and heartache, Rong Xiu didn't take this matter to heart. In the past, when the clan leader was in power, he indulged her in every possible way. But now, it was different. Jiang Jiwan's status wasn't low, but this was the Yuntian Tower. She couldn't do as she pleased. "Umo, stay here and watch them finish their punishment." "Yes." Umo wiped the sweat off his forehead. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Jiwan with a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. Does this young miss still think that the Yuntian Tower today is the same as the Yuntian Tower a few years ago? Wasn't she a little too bold? She actually dared to barge in like this. She really doesn't treat me as an outsider. Rong Xiu finished speaking and was about to leave. Seeing that he was about to leave, Jiang Jiwan couldn't help but shout again. "Wait, Your Highness, do you really not want to see me that much? We haven't seen each other for years." Rong Xiu wanted to nod directly, but he chose to be merciful for the sake of the Jiang clan. "I have something important to do." Jiang Jiwan was slightly stunned. "What is so important that Your Highness needs to do personally at this time?" In a while, the banquet would begin. What was he planning to do? Rong Xiu's eyes seemed to be covered with a thin layer of frost. "Miss Jiang, are you questioning I?" Jiang Jiwan's heart tightened. "No, I'm not. I'm just asking casually. It's fine if Your Highness doesn't want to tell me." Seeing that Rong Xiu really had no reluctance and was about to leave, she gritted her teeth and took a step forward. "Your Highness, I'm here because I have something important to discuss with you." Rong Xiu seemed to have no intention of paying attention to him. He turned around with an indifferent expression. "It's related to the academy," Jiang Jiwan shouted. Rong Xiu paused and looked back at her. His deep eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. "Speak." Chu Luiwei and the others walked along the silver bridge. After about 15 minutes, they arrived at the main island. When they got closer, they could see everything on the main island more clearly. This island was huge. There were mountains and forests, rising and falling continuously. On these mountains, there were several palaces scattered like stars in the sky. On the highest peak in the middle, there was a magnificent palace towering majestically. Chu Luiwei and the others arrived at the bottom and edge of the main island. Therefore, if they wanted to see the palaces, they would have to look up, because they couldn't see very clearly. Coupled with the white fog, they could only see a corner of the palace. However, even at such a distance, they could still clearly feel the ancient and vast pressure. It was a power and aura that almost made people submit to it from the depths of their souls. Master Lin, a soldier in charge of receiving them, stepped forward. Judging from his clothes and aura, he seemed to be a level higher than the leader who sent them here. I'm Hu Yang. In the following period of time, it will be up to me to explain everything that has happened here. Thank you in advance, Master Hu. Lin Tianfeng smiled. Master Lin is too polite. As Hu Yang spoke, he put away the white jade token. Everyone, please follow me. Master Lin, you are the last to arrive. The other tribes had already rested in their respective palaces, waiting for the saint's birthday banquet to begin. Hu Yang said as he led the group forward. If we were any later, you ladies would not have made it. Lin Tianfeng smiled apologetically. We were delayed because of some matters. Please don't blame us. Master Lin, you don't have to worry about this. His Highness won't care about such trivial matters. Hu Yang shook his head. Then, Lin Tianfeng and Hu Yang chatted for a while and soon arrived at their destination. This was a relatively short mountain peak, and a palace was located on top of it. Although it was called a palace, it was far inferior to the ones above. This is the Wind Lotus Palace. It will also be the place where you will rest for a period of time. Hu Yang led them over. Suddenly, a burst of bell-like laughter came from the side. It seemed that a few women were excitedly discussing something at the corner of the palace. The Yuntian Tower is indeed extraordinary. Everywhere is extremely expensive. I heard that the cup of tea we just drank cost 100,000 white crystal coins per tael. Really? That's really. If only we could live here for the rest of our lives. What's the point of living here? The ones above are the real good places. Do you see the one at the top? Rumor has it that that's the saint's palace. Ah, that's not a place where just anyone can go, isn't that simple? Now that the saint is choosing a concubine, as long as you are chosen, sure. Lower your voice. You really aren't afraid of being overheard. Although there are many outstanding women from the various tribes, who doesn't know that the position of concubine has already been decided? Hearing this, Chu Luiwei raised his eyebrows slightly. You mean, the one from the Immortal Water Mausoleum? Other than her, who else could it be? Rumor has it that she is a stunning beauty, and she was born with a rare Tianjin Yuan meridian, just like the saint. That's not all. You must know that the Jiang clan in the Immortal Water Mausoleum is the most powerful existence among all the tribes. Moreover, the old clan leader of the Yuntian Tower has a close relationship with the Jiang clan, and he has always doted on Miss Jiang. When she was young, she spent most of her time at the Yuntian Tower. It's probably because the old clan leader is in seclusion and she is diligent in her cultivation that she has less contact with the Yuntian Tower. With these conditions, do you think that the position of concubine will fall into her family's hands? If that's the case, then why does the saint still choose a concubine with such great fanfare? Can't he just get engaged to Miss Jiang directly? Who knows? Anyway, we're just here to serve as a foil. Besides, even if the concubine can't be chosen, there are still concubines, right? At the very least, there are concubines. As long as she is chosen, she won't have to worry for the rest of her life. I've heard that the saint is unparalleled in his handsomeness, like an immortal. I wonder what he looks like. Chu Luiwei stroked his chin. Concubine. Concubine. Concubine? So the Holy Son's life was actually so good. Chapter 1057. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. The people around them were originally quietly listening to the women in the corner, but Chu Liyue's laughter immediately broke the silence. Lin Tianfeng and the others looked over strangely. The commotion here also attracted the attention of the women who were chatting happily not far away. They quickly stopped and looked over nervously. It was fine for them to talk like this in private, but if someone with ulterior motives overheard, when they saw Hu Yang standing at the front, the women's faces turned slightly pale, but they secretly heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. This was because Hu Yang wasn't directly responsible for looking after them. They quickly calmed down, looked at each other, and walked over. "Greetings, Lord Hu." The three women bowed in unison. They were all beautiful, slender, and dainty. Their movements were very graceful and dignified. It was obvious that they had learned the relevant etiquette before, and it was impossible to find fault with them. Hu Yang nodded and pointed to Lin Tianfeng. "This is clan leader Lin of Heavenly Cave Cliff." "Heavenly Cave Cliff?" The women showed a look of understanding, then smiled and bowed. "Greetings, clan leader Lin. I've heard of your name for a long time, and seeing you today, I can see that you live up to your reputation." These words were said very politely, and also very flattering. It would be better if they could cover up the contempt and disdain in their eyes. Lin Tianfeng was able to keep his composure and didn't argue with them. His expression was calm, and he didn't reveal anything. "Ladies, you're too polite. If I'm selected this time, I'll be the one to bow to you in the future." The expressions of the women on the other side changed instantly. Wasn't he clearly mocking them? But considering the other party's identity and the fact that Hu Yang and the others were standing around, they didn't want to make things too ugly, so they swallowed their anger and forced a smile. "Not at all. I'm just a lowly person. How could I dare to have such extravagant hopes?" Lin Qifei suddenly coughed. Hearing this, Lin Tianfeng immediately turned around and asked worriedly, "Qifei, are you feeling unwell?" Hu Yang said, "Fourth young master Lin, this way please." As he spoke, he led his men all the way to the side hall. Chu Liyue was about to follow, but was suddenly stopped by those women. "Miss, please wait." Chu Liyue stopped in her tracks and looked back. "Is something the matter?" A beautiful woman in a lotus-colored dress smiled slightly, but there was no smile in her eyes. "May I ask, what were you laughing at just now?" Chu Liyue also laughed. "It's nothing. I just thought of something and chuckled." "What's wrong? Could it be that the few of you have something against this?" The woman sneered and took a few steps forward, approaching Chu Liyue. The three women who had originally planned to follow Lin Tianfeng and the others hurriedly stepped forward and stood beside Chu Liyue. "What are you trying to do?" "We don't want to do anything. It's just that this lady seemed to be mocking us just now. We just want to clarify things." The woman in the lotus-colored dress stared at Chu Liyue with a mocking gaze. Chu Liyue gave the others a reassuring look and smiled faintly. "I'm not mocking you, but I think what you said makes a lot of sense. No matter who you are, as long as you're chosen, you'll have a meteoric rise. Besides, His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed enchanting, noble, and graceful." She suddenly paused. "His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed what?" The women opposite her asked anxiously. "His Highness the Son of Saint is indeed the dream man of many women." Chu Liyue smiled and said word by word, "Do I need you to tell me that? But someone like you won't have a chance." The woman in the lotus-colored dress impudently sized up Chu Liyue. The mocking expression on her face was enough to explain everything. "Show some respect. Miss Dugu is an 8th-grade celestial physician. She's also an honored guest of Heavenly Cave Cliff." The women beside Chu Liyue couldn't help but retort. Only then did the women opposite her realize that this ordinary-looking woman in front of them didn't seem to be participating in the consort selection hall this time. There was a little boy standing next to her. Just as the two sides were about to continue arguing, Chu Liyue said, "Forget it, let's go back first." She wasn't interested in wasting time here with these people. However, her words were a sign of weakness in the eyes of the other party. After they turned and left, the women didn't lower their voices and were still full of mockery. "At least she knows her place. I'm afraid no man will take a second look at her if she goes out like this. It's useless even if she's beautiful. Heavenly Cave Cliff. I thought they'd tactfully give up. Who knew that they'd be so thick-skinned and come? What a pity. If we came a little earlier and changed our residence, we wouldn't have to squeeze in with them. Forget it, there's nothing to say to these people. Let's go back and prepare first. The birthday banquet is about to begin. Those people from Cold Mountain Valley are too much. A woman finally couldn't help but whisper. They're clearly not much stronger than us. What right do they have to be so arrogant? Chu Liwei smiled indifferently. If they want to make a scene, let them. We just have to do our own thing. Miss Dugu, aren't you angry? Another woman asked curiously. They said that about you. Chu Liwei touched her face and nodded thoughtfully. Actually, what they said isn't without reason. This face is indeed not qualified to participate in the consort selection hall. The women looked at each other speechlessly. Dugu really didn't seem to care about this at all. Chu Liwei walked into the room, took Lin Qifei's pulse, and handed over a pill. This is the last one. I'll continue to refine it when I have time. You should be able to recover more than half in a month or so. It's just that fourth young master's body has been burdened by illness for many years. He needs to rest well for about a year or so before he can fully recover. Lin Qifei nodded lightly. Thank you. Master Lin, the people from Cold Mountain Valley have already taken the main hall. I'll have to trouble you to stay in this side hall for the time being. Hu Yang sighed and said. Lin Tianfeng wanted to say something but stopped. In the end, he didn't flare up and only nodded. At this moment, a series of familiar footsteps suddenly came from outside. Chu Liwei seemed to sense something and looked back. A figure appeared at the door. It was Yan Qing. Hu Yang was shocked. He hurried forward and asked respectfully, Lord Yan Qing, why are you here? Yan Qing was in a hurry. Her eyes quickly searched the room. When she saw Chu Liwei, her heart skipped a beat. Chu Liwei smiled, her red lips slightly opened. Yan Qing? Chapter 1058. Yan Qing hurriedly walked to Chu Liwei and was about to speak when the girl suddenly stepped forward. Greetings, Lord Yan Qing. I am Dugu, said Chu Liwei with a smile and bowed at the same time. Yan Qing's legs turned to jelly, and he almost knelt on the ground. You, he spoke in a trembling voice, but before he could say anything he saw Chu Liwei's bright black eyes. That pair of star-like eyes were glowing with a clear and bright light. Yan Qing choked, and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. He complained incessantly in his heart. His Highness was supposed to come, but he was stopped by Jianghu. Hearing that it had something to do with the academy, His Highness temporarily stayed behind and let him come first. Yan Qing had already expected that Chu Liwei would not be in a good mood after knowing these things. She might be angry, or reprimanded, but he did not expect that she would not even want to admit her identity. But this was even scarier than those reactions. Yan Qing regretted it for a moment. He should have waited to come with His Highness. Why did he have to become cannon fodder now? Only then did the surrounding people realize that the atmosphere between the two was very unusual. Hu Yang's eyes darted back and forth between the two of them, and he asked tentatively, Lord Yan Qing, are you acquainted with Miss Dugu? Yan Qing swallowed his saliva with difficulty. His throat was tight. Yes, I have met Lord Yan Qing a few times before, but at that time, I did not know Lord Yan Qing's identity. Only today did I know that Lord Yan Qing's identity is so impressive. Chu Liwei responded smoothly, and the smile on her face did not diminish at all. She looked very relaxed. However, in the ears of the people around them, these words were no different from a clap of thunder. Dugu actually knows Yan Qing? He was the closest confidant of His Highness the Saint. Such a status was enough to kill 90% of the people in Yuntian Tower. Yan Qing's eyes twitched. Every word that came out of Chu Liwei's mouth was like roasting him on a rack. Lin Tianfeng looked on in amazement from the side. Suddenly, a white light flashed in his mind. Wait a minute. Dugu was an outsider, so she shouldn't have been to the Divine Ruins world before. In that case, did the two of them know each other outside the Divine Ruins realm? Looking at the reactions of the two people, especially the expression of this Yanqing. How could it be that they had only met a few times? Could it be? Lin Tianfeng had a bold and absurd conjecture. This idea was so absurd that just thinking about it made his heart beat uncontrollably. He almost subconsciously looked at Lin Qifei, only to see that Lin Qifei was also observing the two people thoughtfully. The surrounding people made Yanqing feel uneasy. He swallowed hard. "Miss Dugu, may I have a word with you?" The already quiet room became even more silent. Who was Yanqing? With his status, how could he speak so politely to a woman? In fact, this was no longer just politeness. It was almost like he was begging. Everyone present was shocked. Only the person in question, Chu Luiyue, didn't look surprised at all. In fact, the smile on his face deepened. "Sure." Yanqing took a deep breath and stretched out his hand. "This way, please." After Yanqing and Chu Luiyue left, the remaining people fell into a long silence. After an unknown period of time, Hu Yang sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Lin Tianfeng in disbelief and said anxiously, "Patriarch Lin, Miss Dugu knows Lord Yanqing. Why didn't you say so earlier?" Lin Tianfeng said innocently, I didn't know. How long had they known Duguyu? How could they know everything? Right now, he was also filled with shock. "All right. Oh my God, Lord Yanqing. Is he the Yanqing by His Highness the Holy Sun's side?" A woman beside him widened her eyes and asked cautiously. Hu Yang sighed. "Other than him, who else could it be?" The young ladies looked at each other in dismay, their faces filled with shock. "I heard that Lord Yanqing is one of His Highness the Holy Sun's most trusted confidants. He also has a high status in the Yuntian Tower. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to know him. From what they said, it seems like they met outside the world of God. I didn't expect Miss Dugu to have such a relationship. They seem to be very close." Anyone with eyes could see that Yanqing's attitude in front of Duguyu was very different. Hu Yang came back to his senses. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. This Miss Dugu is too much. She should have said so earlier. With this relationship, their situation in the Yuntian Tower would be much better than before. Another woman said weakly. Didn't she say that she didn't know Lord Yanqing's identity and only found out after coming here? She probably didn't expect this to happen, right? However, Hu Yang laughed out loud. Actually, that's not important. Miss Dugu knows Lord Yanqing. Who knows how much more convenient it will be for all of you in the future? Lord Yanqing has always been a cold-hearted person. He is only loyal to His Highness the Holy Sun. He doesn't care about most of the others. To be able to establish a relationship with him, TSK. He smiled at Lin Tianfeng and said, Lin Tianfeng. Master Lin, many of the clans have tried to establish a good relationship with Lord Yanqing, but to no avail. You guys are much better than them. The Lin family of Cave Heaven Cliff had always been the weakest among the clans. Who would have thought that they would be so lucky? Lin Tianfeng laughed and then looked at Lin Qifei. Could it be that guess was true? Yanqing is guilty. Please punish me, Miss Lu Liyue. As soon as Yanqing entered the room, he knelt down on one knee and admitted his mistake. Chu Liyue widened her eyes slightly as if she were shocked. Lord Yanqing, what are you doing? Please get up. I can't accept this bow. If outsiders know about this, it will be inappropriate. Yanqing smiled bitterly and begged, Don't worry. Please don't make fun of me. I had no choice but to hide it from you. Oh? No choice? So, your master was also forced to do it? Chu Liyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Yanqing choked. If I didn't come this time, I'm afraid that His Highness would have chosen a harem and lived a carefree life here, right? This. You really misunderstood. There are all kinds of beauties here. If I were a man, I would be tempted to see them. Yanqing felt suffocated. For the first time, he blamed his master. Why should his subordinate bear the responsibility for the trouble he caused? Yanqing felt a headache coming on. Miss Luyu, His Highness wanted to pick you up personally, but Miss Jiang came to him at the last minute, so His Highness asked me to come first. It's not good to live in Wind Lotus Garden. Why don't you come with me first? Chu Luiyue crossed her arms and smiled faintly. Miss Jiang? Chapter 1059. Rumor had it that Lord Yanqing was a knife in the hands of the saint. With a cold face and a cold heart, he was decisive in killing. Even if he had killed thousands of people and fought on the battlefield, he would still be cold and cruel. But today, he knew how to write the word scared for the first time. Chu Luiyue was smiling, but Yanqing felt a chill down his spine. He felt that he had said something wrong. And it was not just a little wrong, but a big mistake. He struggled to say, No, His Highness has something important to discuss with that person. It's not about anything else. Oh, Chu Luiyue nodded. It seems that it's really something important, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't come. The consort selection hall is just around the corner. He must be very busy. Yanqing felt that it was useless to keep struggling. He closed his eyes in despair. Ms. Luiyue, take it that I'm begging you. Please follow me up first. His Highness will be worried if he doesn't see you later. I'm an outsider. Now I can come to the Yuntian Tower because of my relationship with the Lin family of Dongtian Cliff. Naturally, I have to go with them. How can I just leave like this? Chu Luiyue refused without thinking. She didn't have to come because he didn't want to, but she had to go because he wanted her to? How could there be such a good thing in the world? Besides, why can't I see him? In 4 hours, the birthday banquet will start. Won't we see him then? But it's really inconvenient for you to stay here. Yanqing wanted to persuade her again, but when he looked up and saw Chu Luiyue's faint smile, he swallowed the rest of his words and changed the topic. Then I'll listen to you. If there's anything, just let me know. Chu Luiyue waved his hand. Okay, since you've said it out loud, I'll see what I can do. Let's go. Although Chu Luiyue urged her to leave, Yanqing still respectfully sent her back to her previous place. When the two of them arrived at the door of the room, everyone in the room heard the commotion and looked over. I'll leave first. After Yanqing finished speaking and saw Chu Luiyue nod, she turned around and left. After taking a step forward, he turned back to look at Hu Yang. You must take good care of Miss Dugu and the others. Hu Yang hurriedly said, I understand. Rest assured, Madam Yanqing. Yanqing nodded. Because he failed to invite Chu Luiyue up, he left with a heavy heart. On the other hand, Chu Luiyue's expression remained the same. He walked straight to a nearby chair and sat down as if nothing had happened. This contrast was even more shocking to the crowd. Miss Dugu, are you satisfied with this place? Hu Yang carefully asked. In truth, he had been very polite to Lin Tianfeng and the others, but now he was even more respectful to Chu Luiyue. Madame Yanqing had said to take good care of these people before she left, but who couldn't tell that she was referring to Duguyu? Even a ghost wouldn't believe that there was no relationship between them. Chu Luiyue looked around and smiled. It's pretty good. In the eyes of Hu Yang, Yanqing, and the others, this place might not be good enough, but in reality, it was more luxurious and noble than most of the palaces she had seen before. Moreover, it wasn't the exaggerated kind of grandeur, but the kind of nobility that only a top-notch family with a deep foundation and a long history could exude. No wonder Rong Xiu was so rich, with such a large family fortune. Why worry about money? Hu Yang's impression of Chu Luiyue improved. It was fine that she didn't know about Madame Yanqing's identity, but now that she did, she didn't intend to use this relationship to her own benefit. Moreover, her attitude was as amiable as before. How rare. The smile on his face became more genuine. That's good, that's good. I'll be staying next door. If there's anything you need, just tell me. With that, he clasped his hands at Chu Luiyue, Lin Tianfeng, and the others before leaving. The remaining people all looked at Chu Luiyue with different expressions. Chu Luiyue raised her gaze slightly and looked at the others. She smiled and said, Why is everyone looking at me like that? What do you think? Miss Dugu, I didn't expect that you and Madame Yanqing would have such fate. The girls were more simple-minded and didn't have so many scruples, so they simply spoke directly. How did you know each other? Chu Luiyue sipped her tea and said slowly, It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. There's nothing much to say about it. Could it be that she actually knew him because of his master? Hearing this ambiguous answer, the girls looked at each other in dismay, somewhat disappointed. It was as good as not saying anything. Alright, it's getting late. His Highness the Saint's birthday banquet is about to begin. You can all go and prepare yourselves. Lin Tianfeng suddenly said. With his reminder, the girls suddenly came to their senses. That's right. The main reason they came here was the consort selection ceremony. In a while, the carefully selected noble ladies of each tribe would all appear together. At that time, naturally, there would be a competition for beauty. Although they knew that they had no hope of being selected, they still had to prepare carefully so as not to embarrass Cave Heaven Cliff. The girls excused themselves and left together. Lin Emo said to the two remaining elders. Then let's go first. Lu Ruhai frowned and glanced at Chu Luiyue. Sensing his gaze, Chu Luiyue turned her gaze. The two looked at each other for a moment. Lu Ruhai was the first to look away. With a cold snort, he waved his sleeves and walked out. Lin Emo coughed awkwardly and tried to persuade Chu Luiyue. Miss Dugu, don't worry. Ruhai is just a little hot-tempered. He doesn't mean to target you, so don't mind him. Even if he did have some thoughts before, now that he knew that Duguyu was acquainted with Lord Yanqing, he should have dismissed them. Chu Luiyue's eyes curved into crescents. Thank you for your concern, Elder Lin Emo. I know all of this. Soon, only Lin Tianfeng and his son, Chu Luiyue, and Debao were left in the room. Lin Tianfeng looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated gaze, as if he wanted to say something, but stopped. Patriarch Lin, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Chu Luiyue said directly. Lin Tianfeng paused. Miss Dugu, I don't mean to offend you, but I feel that this matter is really strange. You and that Lord Yanqing? Speaking of this, he glanced at Debao, who had been so quiet that it was as if he didn't exist, and a trace of hesitation appeared on his face. Patriarch Lin, if you have something to say, then just say it. If I can listen, so can Debao. Hearing her words, Lin Tianfeng gritted his teeth. Actually, what I want to ask is Lord Yanqing the person Miss Dugu mentioned before? This Debao's birth. Crack. Debao split the table next to him in half. Chapter 1060. Cough. Chu Luiyue didn't expect Lin Tianfeng to think that way. She almost couldn't breathe properly. Hearing this, she knew that something was wrong and quickly grabbed Debao's other hand. Debao! Dugamabao immediately calmed down when her soft hand covered his slightly cold one. He glanced at Lin Tianfeng, his eyes extremely cold. A cold glint flashed through those devilish purple eyes. Lin Tianfeng suddenly felt a chill in his heart, as if a chill had risen from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. But Dugamabao's face was immediately pushed away by Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue looked at him in fear. Master, are you really not afraid of your identity being exposed? Dugamabao's eyes flashed. He's asking for death. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes. He didn't do it on purpose. I'll explain it for you later. Tell me, what's the point of looking at him like that, other than arousing suspicion? I can kill him. Dugamabao didn't speak, but his expression was extremely serious. As long as he wanted to, Lin Tianfeng would definitely not be able to leave alive. Chu Luiyue, master is master. Lin Tianfeng was the cliff master of the Heavenly Cave Cliff, and he was a powerhouse who had completely entered the realm of the gods. But Dugamabao didn't seem to care at all. Chu Luiyue knew him too well. If he said that he could kill Lin Tianfeng with his gaze, then he could definitely do it. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes and quickly leaned over to his ear, warning him in an extremely weak voice. If you don't cooperate, I'll spank you in public. Dugamabao suddenly looked up, but Chu Luiyue pressed him on the shoulder. Dugamabao. Hee, Master Lin, don't mind him. This child is more sensitive and precocious. It's inevitable that he would get emotional when he heard this. It's my fault, I didn't think it through before. Chu Luiyue explained as he restrained Dugamabao. Also, you've really misunderstood. Yanqing and I. Master, it's not what you think. Lin Tianfeng was skeptical. If it wasn't this relationship, then what relationship could it be? Lord Yanqing was famous for being a cold-faced king of hell. If they had only met a few times, why would it be like this? Moreover, his gaze landed on the table that had been shattered by Dugumabao, and his heart still palpitated. How could this be the strength of a 3-year-old child? Moreover, he had clearly sensed a ghastly killing intent just now. Father, S's. Lin Jifei suddenly said. Lin Tunfeng is tired? That's right. After running around for so long, your body can't take it for the time being. Then you should rest first. I won't disturb you. After he finished speaking, he looked at Chu Liwei questioningly. Lin Jifei said, I'd like to ask Miss Dugu to stay and discuss the follow-up treatment. Lin Tianfeng realized that his son wanted to chase him out, so he didn't say anything more and left after a few words of advice. After he left, the room calmed down again. Chu Liwei then let go of Dugumabao. Dugumabao was no longer angry. He still had a cold expression on his face, but he didn't make a move in the end. Miss Dugu, please forgive my father for offending you just now, Lin Jifei said. Chu Liwei waved his hand. It's nothing. Master Lin is also concerned about helping me. I understand. It's just that Master Yanqing and I. Chu Liwei couldn't help but smile bitterly. She never thought that things would develop in such a way. Fourth young master, you don't think so too, do you? Lin Jifei shook his head. I believe Miss Dugu's words. He is not the person you're looking for. Chu Liwei looked at him with some surprise. Oh, fourth young master, why are you so sure? Thinking back to what happened just now, it seemed that it was easy to misunderstand. But Lin Jifei's tone seemed to be very certain. Lin Jifei smiled faintly. Intuition. The atmosphere between the two of them was indeed unusual. It wasn't an ordinary friendship that they had met a few times, but it was definitely not what Lin Tianfeng had guessed. The main reason why he was so sure was actually because of her. When she saw Master Yanqing, her eyes didn't shine brightly. It was completely different from the way she looked when she mentioned that person that day. So, the person she was looking for was definitely someone else. Chu Liuyue's red lips curled slightly. Lin Jifei was much smarter and sharper than Lin Tianfeng. Actually, if Miss Dugu really wants to find that person, why don't you just ask Master Yanqing for help? His status in the Yuntian Tower is not low. If he agrees to help, it should save a lot of effort. Lin Jifei didn't intend to ask about the matter between Chu Liwei and Yanqing, so he went back to the topic. Chu Liwei rested her chin on one hand, looking thoughtful. After a moment, she laughed. That's not necessary. His Highness the Son of God's banquet is about to start. Everyone should be there by then. I think we should be able to find him. This was his birthday banquet, and also his concubine selection hall. He should be there, right? 2 hours passed quickly. Chu Liwei was adjusting her breath in her room when she suddenly heard the deep and melodious sound of a bell coming from outside. Dong! The sound of the bell quickly spread and fell clearly into everyone's ears. Chu Liwei suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were as bright as the stars. She looked outside through the window. The birthday banquet was about to begin. Digression. Continued at 6 p.m., the list of winners of the August-related activities. 1. Xiaoxiang Academy Star of the Monthly Votes. A Pack of Little Demons, 42 votes. Star of the Review. Memories Yen Io 2. QQ Reading Star of the Review. Yinyu Tonglu, 155 votes. Star of the Review. Ice Cream, Xiaojiao. Inseparable friends on the above list. Please add the group in 3 days and privately contact the group leader to receive the related gifts. Chapter 1061. Knock knock. Hu Yang's voice came from outside the door. Miss Dugu, it's time for us to set off. Coming. Chu Liwei replied and turned to look at Dugumabao. Let's go, Debeo? Dugumabao was sitting with his back facing her. He didn't move when he heard that, and his small back view exuded a cold aura. Chu Liwei coughed and walked over. From the side, Dugumabao had his arms crossed and his eyes closed. His thick eyelashes were slightly curled. Although his small face was cold, his skin was still translucent, and he looked adorable. After they came back, Dugumabao had been in this position for 4 whole hours without moving. Chu Luiwei secretly admired his composure. At the same time, she thought that this man was very difficult to coax. However, looking at him like this, it was hard for anyone to really get angry. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat, and she softened her voice. I promise that I'll clarify everything this time, okay? Don't you want to clarify these things in front of everyone? Duga Mabao finally opened his eyes. His devilish purple eyes were as clear as jade. Really? Of course. Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows. I can't possibly watch my own fiancé become someone else's husband, right? Then what do you want to do? Duga Mabao narrowed his eyes and sized her up. With her current inconspicuous appearance, she probably wouldn't be able to do anything even if she went. Chu Luiwei couldn't help but ruffle his hair, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Don't ask about this first. I have my own plans. When Chu Luiwei walked out, Lin Tianfeng and the others were already waiting in the courtyard. The girls had also dressed up meticulously, and they looked even more charming than before. Miss Dugu, why didn't you change your clothes? A girl asked curiously. Chu Luiwei chuckled. Why should I change my clothes? This is His Highness the Holy Sun's birthday banquet, the woman mumbled. Even if Dugu wasn't going to participate in the consort selection hall, but for such an occasion, shouldn't she dress up grandly? But seeing that she didn't seem to care, they didn't say anything more. With her ordinary appearance, so what if she changed into a set of luxurious clothes? An ear-piercing voice of mockery rang out. Chu Luiwei and the others looked over. He saw a group of people walking towards him from the main hall. The leader was a burly middle-aged man. Beside him was a soldier in black armor. The totem of the Yuntian Tower was tattooed on the left side of his chest. He was dressed the same as Hu Yang, so it was obvious that he was of the same status as Hu Yang. Behind the two of them were a few old men and a few women. Without a doubt, these people were also wearing exquisite makeup. From her hair to her fingernails, she had put in a lot of effort. The woman who had spoken earlier was the one who had confronted Chu Luiwei at the beginning. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and sneered. It's better for some people to know their own limits. Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows. She hadn't said that she was going to participate in the consort selection hall, but the other party was so insistent. Clearly, they were still holding a grudge against her for laughing at them earlier. They also thought that they were easy to bully from Grotto Heaven Cliff, so they were so bold. Not to mention whether she was good-looking or not, just her character alone was enough to annoy people. Before Chu Luiwei could retort, Hu Yang had already stepped forward and stared at the woman. Miss Han Zishu, please be careful with your words. Han Zishu looked at Hu Yang in surprise. What was going on? This Hu Yang actually dared to speak to her like that in front of so many people? He was clearly very humble earlier. The Valley Master of the Cold Mountain Valley, Han Quan, also frowned, but quickly returned to normal. Lord Hu Yang, please don't take offense. My daughter has always been outspoken. If she has offended you, please forgive her. Hu Yang said indifferently. Whether she is being outspoken or intentionally slandering you, everyone knows in their hearts. Valley Master Han, this is the Yuntian Tower after all, not the Cold Mountain Valley. If your daughter still can't control her temper, then I'm afraid she won't gain the favor of His Highness Saint. You, Han Zishu's face turned pale with anger. How dare you curse me? Hu Yang snorted. Don't think too much. I'm just reminding you. It's up to you whether you want to take it or not. This time, even Han Quan's expression didn't look good. He was just casually teasing them, but who knew that Hu Yang would be so ungrateful? He dared to challenge them in public. Hu Yang, everyone here is a guest. What are you doing? The soldier standing next to Han Quan frowned and spoke in a commanding tone. Hurry up and apologize to Valley Master Han and Miss Han. Hu Yang snorted and ignored him. He looked at Lin Tianfeng and the others. Family Master Lin, Miss Dugu, this way please. Then, the group really left, leaving the people in the Cold Mountain Valley to wait. How did he become so arrogant all of a sudden? Han Quan couldn't help but ask angrily. Lord Qinting, he wasn't like this when he saw you before. Qinting also frowned. Although he and Hu Yang were at the same level, he had some connections with the higher-ups, so he was slightly better off than Hu Yang. Usually, Hu Yang would be very polite when they met. What was wrong with him today? Why was he so stubborn? Does he think that those from Heavenly Cave Cliff have a chance to be chosen by His Highness Saint? Han Zishu was so angry that she laughed. When Qin Ting heard this, he immediately said, "How is that possible? Heavenly Cave Cliff is the weakest among all the tribes. His Highness Saint won't even look at them, let alone the others." Forget it. Since he's so arrogant now, we'll let him go first. In the future, we'll have a chance to get back at him. Han Quan said in a deep voice. Let's go quickly. We can't be late for His Highness Saint's birthday banquet. The banquet was held on the highest peak of the main island, Upstart Peak. Upstart Peak is the most sacred place of the Yuntian Tower. It's heavily guarded and there are strict rules for entry and exit. Other than the family master, His Highness Saint, and the various elders, anyone who wants to enter Upstart Peak has to get permission. Hu Yang explained as he led the group up the stairs. There are 2 halls on Upstart Peak. Do you see the one at the middle of the mountain? That's the Ethereal Hall, the place where the banquet will be held today. The Sacrificial God Hall occupies a huge area and has a complicated layout. When we enter later, you must follow me closely and don't wander around. The few of them followed his gaze and saw a majestic palace at the middle of the mountain. At this moment, they could vaguely see the square in front of the palace. It was very lively and crowded. What's at the top of the mountain? Chu Liwei suddenly looked at the palace at the top of the mountain and asked. The sun was setting in the west, and the brilliant light shrouded the black palace. It was so tall that it seemed unreachable. Chapter 1062. Hu Yang's face immediately turned solemn and respectful. That's the Sacrificial God Hall. His Highness, the Holy Sun, lived there. Compared to the Ethereal Hall, the Sacrificial God Hall is even more majestic. Other than His Holiness and his trusted aides, no one else is allowed to approach the Sacrificial God Hall. Chu Liwei narrowed his eyes. As expected, that was where Rong Xiu lived. It was probably where he had been staying for the past few years as well. Actually, that used to be the seat of the clan head, but the clan head is currently in seclusion. His Holiness is in charge of the clan affairs, so Hu Yang didn't continue speaking, but everyone understood what he was trying to say. In truth, the current Holy Sun was already the most esteemed existence in the Yuntian Tower. Everyone stared at the Black Palace with grim expressions. Even from such a distance, they could still feel the overwhelming pressure emanating from it. Chu Liwei suddenly chuckled softly. I see. I'm sure Your Highness the Holy Sun must be very busy? Hu Yang's heart skipped a beat. He quickly scanned the surroundings to make sure that no one was around before heaving a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at Chu Liwei with a conflicted expression. Miss Dugu, we're about to reach the Ethereal Hall, so I hope that you don't say such things in the future lest you get into trouble. Seeing the anxious look on Hu Yang's face, Chu Liwei heaved a sigh of relief. I understand. Then, the group continued to move forward. Roughly 15 minutes later, Hu Yang finally came to a stop. They were currently standing on a mountain beside the Ascension Peak, and their location was almost at the same level as the Ethereal Hall. Hu Yang took out his white jade token and infused a surge of origin energy into it. The token glowed brightly. The head of the Lin clan has arrived. It did not take long for a silvery streak of light to fly over from the Ethereal Hall. It was as if a galaxy had descended from the heavens. It was a dazzling sight. Under the darkening sky, it was exceptionally beautiful. At the same time, a similar streak of light flew out from Hu Yang's white jade token and connected with the silver streak of light. Of course, compared to the one that had flown over from the Ethereal Hall, Hu Yang's was far inferior. It was obvious that the person in charge of receiving them was even stronger than Hu Yang. Hu Yang was the first to jump up and put away the token. Everyone please. Apart from this group of people, there were a few other similarly gorgeous streams of flowing light that transformed into bridges all around Upstart Peak. Obviously, they were also people from other tribes who had come to attend the banquet. The closer Chu Luiwei got to the ethereal hall, the clearer he could feel the overwhelming pressure coming from the ethereal hall. She looked over. In front of the ethereal hall was a massive square paved with white jade. On one side of the square, near the cliff, a large black bell floated quietly. The sound of the bell just now seemed to have come from here. Around the square, soldiers in black armor were lined up neatly. Although there were many people coming and going, it was very orderly. Obviously, no matter what kind of background they came from, they all became well-behaved and followed the rules here. Moreover, at a glance, they were all dressed in luxurious brocade robes and were extremely solemn. The group finally landed on the ground. "Welcome, Clan Head Lin." As soon as their feet touched the ground, someone immediately rushed forward to welcome them. The person who had just arrived seemed to be in his 30s. Dressed in black armor, he had a thin face but a pair of spirited eyes. He looked very capable. His clothes were the same as Hu Yang's, but the aura he emanated was much stronger. Even Qin Ting couldn't compare to him. It was no wonder why he was able to work here. Just as Chu Luiwei was thinking about this, the other party suddenly turned to look at her. "You must be Miss Dugu, right?" Chu Luiwei was taken aback for a moment before coming to a realization. From the looks of it, Yan Qing had already informed him about this matter. She nodded with a smile. "That's right." A smile surfaced on the man's face. "It's good that you're here. The seats have already been arranged for you. Please come in." After saying those words, he turned around and led the way. Lin Tianfeng and the others couldn't help but glance at Chu Luiwei. However, Chu Luiwei's expression didn't change at all. She simply raised her eyebrows and followed him in. The main hall of the ethereal hall was resplendent and majestic. In the main hall, there was a throne carved out of black jade, giving it a dignified air. Below it, there were several white jade tables arranged neatly in the middle, and the crowd was seated on both sides. The various tribes seemed to have arranged their seats in advance, and the names of their respective tribes were written on the side of each table. Behind each table, there were a few seats left. Obviously, they were reserved for the people of the various clans who came together. At this moment, more than half of the seats in the main hall were already filled. The crowd was either chatting with one another or chatting with one another privately. It was a lively atmosphere, but there was a hint of restraint in it. From time to time, many people would look outside the hall. Clearly, they were waiting for the most important person of the night. As for the arrival of Lin Tianfeng and the others, it didn't cause too much of a commotion. Most people only glanced in their direction for a moment before retracting their gazes. Grotto Heaven Cliff? There was nothing to worry about. Thus, Chu Luiwei and the rest were led by the soldier to their table in a very low-key manner. "Clan Head Lin, this is the seat of the Grotto Heaven Cliff. Please take a seat." However, Lin Tianfeng didn't move. Instead, he looked at the soldier doubtfully. "Here? Are you kidding me? This is the first row." One must know that those who were able to sit in the first row in such an occasion were the top tribes. Those like the Grotto Heaven Cliff would usually be seated in the last row, in an inconspicuous corner. But now, wasn't this seat a little too conspicuous? Even if it was on account of Lord Yan Qing, it didn't seem appropriate for them to do so. Even Hu Yang was taken aback and hurriedly asked, "What's the matter?" He quickly asked, "Are you sure it's here?" "Of course I'm sure." The soldier chuckled. "Everyone, don't worry. We won't make a mistake in such matters." Lin Tianfeng subconsciously glanced at Chu Luiwei. This position, it should be thanks to her fortune. Since they arranged it, let's just sit down. As Chu Luiwei spoke, she walked over with a relaxed expression. Lin Tianfeng could only nod and lead the rest of the people to sit down rather nervously. As soon as they sat down, the hall quickly quieted down. Everyone looked over with different expressions in their eyes. Obviously, everyone could tell that something was wrong. Lin Tianfeng coughed and looked at Chu Luiwei inquiringly. He lowered his voice. "Miss Dugu, what exactly are you and Lord Yan Qing? His Highness the Chosen One has arrived." Suddenly, a loud and clear voice transmitted over. Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat. She looked up. A man appeared outside the hall. He was dressed in a black brocade robe. He was tall and slender, and his bones were clear and elegant. The flowing light in the hall reflected on his face, making him the most beautiful man in the world. Before he stood still, he looked at the people in the hall, as if he was looking for something. As if they were telepathic, he looked straight in Chu Liyue's direction. A ripple flashed across his deep and pure phoenix eyes. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows were like the spring wind melting snow, containing nostalgia and a smile. Chu Liyue's heart seemed to be hit by something soft. Her lips moved slightly. She almost wanted to call out to him directly. At this moment, a woman's voice sounded. "Your Highness, why are you walking so fast? I can't keep up." Chapter 1063. Immediately after, a slender woman walked over leisurely. It was already dark outside. She was dressed in a white dress with a blue jade belt around her slender waist. Her hair was like a cloud, and her hair was like a cloud. Especially her eyes, which were pure and moving, as gentle as water. Her red lips were curled up with a hint of playfulness. Her looks and charm could be considered stunning. Unfortunately, compared to the man in front of her, she seemed a little dull. The crowd first saw Rong Xiu's immortal-like appearance. When they looked at the others, they were not as stunned. However, compared to the many women in the hall, she was obviously better. When she saw the person, Chu Liyue narrowed her starry eyes slightly and smiled playfully. "So, this is the rumored eldest young Lady Jiang?" Rong Xiu did not seem to hear her. He strode into the hall with his long legs. Jiang Juan was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly followed him. Earlier on, she had been discussing with Rong Xiu about the academy. Later on, Yan Qing returned and said something to Rong Xiu. After that, Rong Xiu was very absent-minded. If not for the fact that the academy was involved, he would have gotten up and left long ago. Until just now, when the banquet was about to start, he came straight here. He looked as if he was worried about being late. But this was the strangest thing. Rong Xiu was the noble saint. Even if he asked these people to wait here for a few hours, they would not dare to say anything. Moreover, he had always been a strategist. He would never do this. No matter what, he seemed to be in a hurry to do something. Jiang Ziyuan didn't have time to ask clearly before she hurried to follow him. Almost subconsciously, she followed Rong Xiu's line of sight and looked into the hall. Unfortunately, there were too many people in the hall. She could not see clearly who Rong Xiu was looking at. The crowd in the hall finally reacted and hurriedly got up to bow. "Greetings, Your Highness the Saint." Most of the tribe leaders and family heads had already seen Rong Xiu before. At this time, they were still calm. However, for many of the women who came with them, it was their first time seeing the rumored saint. Many people blushed and stared blankly at the man who was striding over. Honorable, arrogant. It was rumored that His Highness the Saint was extremely talented and powerful. He was decisive in killing and had the power to kill. Therefore, most people's first impression of him was reverence. However, when they saw him with their own eyes, they realized that His Highness the Saint was unparalleled in the world. Just his face alone was enough to make countless women's hearts flutter. Moreover, he held a high position and held power. How many women wouldn't be moved by such a man? Then, under the gazes of countless pairs of eyes, Rong Xiu suddenly took a step and walked toward a certain spot. Thus, everyone's gazes followed his gaze. Why do I feel like His Highness the Saint is coming toward us? A woman sitting next to Chu Liyue muttered with a red face and wide eyes. How is that possible? What kind of person is His Highness the Saint? How could he— Wait, he really is coming here. He seems to be looking at someone. Could he be looking at us? The remaining two women also became excited. Only Chu Liyue lowered his eyes and casually poured himself a glass of wine. Family head Lin. Rong Xiu stood in front of Lin Tianfeng and said calmly, "Why, Your Highness?" Lin Tianfeng was also shocked and hurriedly got up. Lin Tianfeng of Grotto Heaven Cliff greets His Highness the Saint. Lin Tianfeng was a god-level powerhouse and the head of a cliff, so his aura was not weak. But now, standing in front of Rong Xiu, he seemed much smaller and weaker, and his aura was much weaker. Lin Tianfeng did not even dare to look at the man in front of him. The noble aura he exuded after years of being in a high position was not something ordinary people could compare to. Rong Xiu smiled faintly with one hand behind his back. Family head Lin, you must be tired from traveling all the way here, right? The man's voice was deep and pleasant. However, there was a deathly silence in the hall. Almost everyone's face was instantly filled with shock. What did His Highness the Saint just say? He actually asked Lin Tianfeng if he was tired. Which of the tribes present did not come from afar? Which one of them was not tired? Why did he only ask Lin Tianfeng? Grotto Heaven Cliff had always been ranked last among the tribes. Usually, they would not even have the chance to step forward on such occasions. What was going on today? Not only were they arranged to sit in the first row, but His Highness the Saint even came to ask? What kind of honor was this? Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. We are not tired. Lin Tianfeng was also stunned. He was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses and hurriedly replied. It is already a great honor for us to be able to attend His Highness' birthday banquet. This was not an exaggeration. Among the tribes, there were not many who were qualified to come to Yuntian Tower. Lin Tianfeng had been here before, but he had always stood in a corner and was basically a forgotten, transparent existence. He had never been the center of attention like now. Even His Highness the Saint took the initiative to greet him. All of this happened too suddenly. Even though Lin Tianfeng was a person who had seen many storms, his heart was filled with nervousness and apprehension. Family head Lin, don't be nervous. I was just asking casually. I don't mean anything else. Rong Xiu's thin lips curved slightly, then his gaze fell on the people behind Lin Tianfeng. These people must have come with the Lin family's patriarch. Lin Tianfeng hurriedly turned his head and winked at them. The people who had not come back to their senses before stood up and bowed. Greetings, Your Highness the Saint. One of the girls, perhaps because she was too nervous, even moved the table in front of her. Chu Luiwei had just poured wine, but before he could pick it up, half the cup was spilled. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows. These girls are all from Grotto Heaven Cliff? Lin Tianfeng was shocked and immediately nodded, but then he hurriedly said, These three are, but Miss Dugu is not. Rong Xiu's eyes flashed with interest. Dugu? Lin Tianfeng instinctively turned his head and saw that Chu Luiwei was the only one who was still sitting while the others were standing and bowing. She didn't even raise her head, but was pouring wine for herself. Lin Tianfeng's eyes twitched fiercely. What time is it now? She still has the leisure to drink. Does she know that this is His Highness the Saint? Miss Dugu doesn't seem to be happy to see I? Chu Luiwei then looked up and smiled slightly. Her pair of starry eyes were even brighter and more intoxicating than the wine that reflected the lights in her cup. She smiled. Your Highness the Saint, don't misunderstand. I just didn't see you just now. Chapter 1064. Gasps could be heard coming from the hall. Where did this woman come from? How dare she speak to the saint in such a manner? Just as everyone held their breaths and waited for the saint's thunderous response, he suddenly nodded and asked seriously, Do you see it now? His voice was normal. Not only was there no anger, but there was also a rare sense of patience. Everyone was speechless. Your Highness! Wake up! What are you doing? Chu Luiwei gently swirled her wine glass, tilted her head, and scrutinized him from head to toe. Then she slowly nodded. I see it. Yes. After being separated for so long, they finally met. But she did not expect to meet him in such a place and with such an identity. The current Rong Xiu was different from the previous Rong Xiu. In the past, he was always dressed in white, elegant, and immortal-like. But now, he had changed into a black robe, and instantly had a frightening majesty and vigor. Chu Luiwei had only seen him like this once. It was the first day she heard him being addressed as the saint. It was also from then on that Chu Luiwei gradually realized that Rong Xiu was definitely not what he appeared to be. She had expected Rong Xiu's background to be extremely extraordinary, but she did not expect it to be so shocking. Your Highness is indeed handsome and charming, enough to attract the hearts of countless women in the world. Chu Luiwei said with a half-smile. Your Highness, you know each other? Jianghu finally could not help but ask behind him. Her eyes wandered back and forth between the two of them, and a subtle sense of discomfort welled up in her heart. Rong Xiu's behavior was really not right. All these years, he had not been close to women, and he did not even bother to talk to them. Whether it was the Yuntian Tower or the people of the various tribes, they had all tried countless times to persuade him to get married. But he had never agreed. This time, it was probably because he really couldn't delay it any longer, so he nodded and held this concubine selection ceremony. Although there was a huge commotion this time, Jiang Jiwon knew very well that Rong Xiu definitely did not intend to choose 3 wives and 4 concubines. His attitude towards her was even more impatient than before. But now, he actually said such words to another woman? Most importantly, this woman's appearance was ordinary, and she didn't seem to be of high birth. What was His Highness thinking? Rong Xiu's voice was calm, but he did not deny it. Of course. How could he not recognize his own wife, his own princess consort, and his own fiancée? In the past, I was fortunate enough to see the Holy Sun's face a few times. Chu Luiwei smiled. Rong Xiu's brows twitched. These words, she clearly didn't want to have anything to do with him? Your Highness, today is your birthday banquet, and also the concubine selection ceremony. Don't waste your time here. Let's get started quickly. Chu Luiwei urged. Rong Xiu's chest tightened. But in front of so many people he couldn't say anything for the time being. Miss Dugu, please do as you please. Just treat it as your own home. After that, he took a deep look at Chu Luiwei, then turned around and walked up to the stage. Hey, Your Highness. Jiang Jiwon looked at Rong Xiu and then at Chu Luiwei. What was going on? Zion, come back quickly. At this moment, Jiang Hiqian suddenly opened his mouth and waved at Jiang Jiwon. It was really embarrassing for her to stand there alone in front of so many people. Moreover, anyone with eyes could see that Rong Xiu treated her very coldly. After entering, he didn't even look at her. Jiang Hiqian's heart ached for his daughter, so he hurriedly called her back. Jiang Juan pursed her lips, then obediently walked over to him and sat behind him. That was the first seat in the first row from the left. It was obvious that the tomb of immortal water had a high status. After Rong Xiu left, Lin Tianfeng finally let out the breath he had been holding in. He hurriedly turned to look at Chu Luiwei, his brows furrowed. His gaze was complicated, as if he had a lot to say but didn't know where to start. Miss Dugu, you know His Highness the Son of God. Why didn't you say so before? Lin Tianfeng finally spat out a sentence. Chu Luiwei blinked. You didn't ask. Lin Tianfeng? He wouldn't ask such a question unless his brain was fried, right? Who would have thought that an ordinary girl from another world would know the high and mighty Son of God? Who could? No wonder, Lin Jing, who was standing aside, suddenly understood something. No wonder Yan Qing treated her like that. He had previously felt that Yan Qing's politeness to her, even a hint of obedience, was abnormal. Now he finally understood. The person she knew was the saint. Lin Qifei suddenly remembered that when she was at the Lin residence, she had once asked if His Highness the Son of God was called Rong Xiu. At that time, Lin Tianfeng had even told her not to call the Son of God by his name. At that time, he had thought that she had called out the Son of God's name because she had just arrived and was reckless and ignorant. Now that he thought about it, it was because she had placed the Son of God on the same level from the beginning. That was why her tone was so calm and natural. Oh my God! Miss Dugu, you actually know His Highness the Son of God. No wonder he came over to talk to us just now. The girls beside her exclaimed in admiration, their faces full of envy. Chu Luiwei smiled faintly and said, Yes, I didn't know his identity before, so I didn't say anything. I see. The girls didn't doubt her and nodded repeatedly. I knew it was strange that we could sit in the first row. His Highness the Son of God must have known that you were coming and specially arranged it. Yes. In that case, you must be very familiar with him, right? Then, Then do you know what kind of girl His Highness the Son of God likes? Chu Luiwei picked up the wine and downed it in one gulp. The burning sensation instantly flowed into her lungs from between her lips and teeth. Almost half of her body was burning up. She rested her chin on one hand and tapped her chin with her slender and fair fingers. The girl he likes. Won't we know when the consort selection ceremony starts? Lin Tianfeng listened to her calm and collected tone, feeling both fortunate and troubled at the same time. Fortunately, they had been treating Duguyu well during this period and didn't offend her. What troubled him was that she didn't seem to realize how shocking it was to be friends with His Highness the Son of God. What did it mean? Most importantly, she didn't seem to be worried about offending the Son of God at all. Listen to what she said just now. He wouldn't dare to say it even if he had 10 guts. But she said it. She didn't intend to save any face for His Highness the Son of God. Left with no choice, Lin Tianfeng could only lower his voice. Miss Dugu, we can't thank you enough for basking in your glory today. Please be careful in the future. Don't say anything like that again, lest you offend His Highness the Son of God. Chu Luiwei raised her eyebrows. Who offended who now? Chapter 1065. Your Highness, are you all right? After Rong Xiu walked over, Yumo couldn't help but ask in a low voice. It was too scary. The scene just now was too scary. Miss Lu Yu's actions were too ruthless. She didn't give His Highness any leeway in front of so many people. However, His Highness couldn't bear to do anything to her and could only let her do whatever she wanted. On the other side, Yan Qing was expressionless. Hearing this, he couldn't help but snort in his heart. Who could he blame for his own sins? He had already advised His Highness to say it, but he refused. Now look, she came straight to his door. And then? He said he would pick her up personally, but he didn't go in the end. It would be strange if that person wasn't angry. Rong Xiu's expression was normal. Just follow the procedure. Mo hurriedly agreed. Yes. After saying that, seeing that His Highness didn't seem to have any other plans, Mo anxiously nudged Yan Qing with his elbow. Hey, didn't His Highness ask you to pick up Miss Lu Yu? Why did she come with the Lin family in the end? Look at how angry that person is now. If you had done it well, His Highness wouldn't have fallen to such a state now? Yan Qing sneered. What was the use of him going? He had already knelt on one knee and begged, but that person was still indifferent. In the end, wasn't it because His Highness was in the wrong first? So what if he was cannon fodder? Could he appease that person by himself? Even His Highness couldn't do it, let alone him. In the end, His Highness should be the one suffering this. Seeing that His Highness was calm as usual and Yan Qing was indifferent, Mo scratched his head and felt a headache coming on. After thinking for a while, he couldn't think of anything and could only sigh in his heart. Sigh. Forget it. Who cares so much? Since His Highness wasn't in a hurry, he must have a way to deal with it, right? Then, Mo put these thoughts aside and began to busy himself with the banquet. Rong Xiu came earlier than expected. After he came in, other tribes arrived one after another. Because of his existence, the atmosphere in the hall was clearly more solemn than before. Even though he had already told them to be casual, they didn't dare to be casual. Especially the young ladies, all of them competed in beauty and were dignified and generous. Every single word and action of theirs was extremely well behaved, as if they were afraid of making a mistake and drawing the annoyance of the person above them. Behind them, Cold Mountain Valley and the others also arrived. After entering, the group of people first saw Rong Xiu sitting at the head of the table. Only then did they realize that they were late and hurriedly knelt down to pay their respects. Rong Xiu didn't mind and let them sit down. However, the faces of Han Quan and the others were still pale. They all knew very well that with such a big mistake, they probably didn't have any more chances. Only Han Zishu and a few others did not react for a while. They were only focused on Rong Xiu, who was sitting at the head of the table. He had the grace of a dragon and the grace of a phoenix, a clear and evildoer. It was normal for such a person to be tempted. It was only when Rong Xiu looked over with a tinge of coldness in his eyes that the overwhelming suppression suddenly attacked. Only then did the few of them finally wake up. If you don't want your eyes, just say so, Rong Xiu said coldly. Only then did Han Zishu and the others hurriedly lower their heads and beg for mercy. This scene made everyone in the hall feel very complicated. Dugu Yu in front said that she didn't see him, but he insisted on letting her see. Now that the few women from Cold Mountain Valley were staring at him in a daze, he actually wanted to dig out their eyeballs. Actually, it wasn't that His Highness Saint had never done such a thing before. However, with the previous incident as a foil, this incident was too strange. Why was there such a huge difference between people? After much persuasion, the group from Cold Mountain Valley finally begged for forgiveness and went to the corner behind the crowd helplessly. At this moment, they saw that Lin Tianfeng and the others were actually sitting in the first row. Han Zishu was shocked. Just as she was about to speak, Han Quan held her back. Now that they couldn't even take care of themselves, how could they care about others? Moreover, Han Zishu and the others didn't know, but Han Quan and Qin Ting knew the pros and cons. The fact that Lin Tianfeng and the others could sit here peacefully already explained too many things. Even if they wanted to find trouble with them, they had to ask about the situation first. Thus, the group of people went down sullenly just like that. Let's see how arrogant they can be this time. Miss Dugu, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, we would have been bullied by them again. The few women from Grotto Heaven Cliff felt relieved. Now that everyone knows that you and His Highness Saint know each other, no one will dare to provoke you in the future. Chu Luwe smiled and glanced at Lu Ruhai, who had been silent all this while. I hope so. After everyone arrived, the banquet officially began. First, the people from each tribe presented their congratulatory gifts to wish His Highness Saint a happy birthday. Piles of flowery words were poured out as if they were free. Chu Luiwei was drowsy listening to them. Rong Xiu glanced at her and saw her lazy and sleepy look. He couldn't help but laugh and interrupt Umo, who was reading the list of gifts. Alright, I'll look at these later. Today is not only Ai's birthday, but also the consort selection ceremony. Ai's time to choose a consort, so let's get started. Everyone was taken aback and immediately became excited. This was the highlight of tonight's event. Rong Xiu waved his wrist and handed a booklet to Yan Qing. First, check the name list for the consort selection ceremony. Yan Qing opened it respectfully, and then his face froze. He quickly looked up at Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu looked calm. Read it. Yan Qing swallowed his saliva with difficulty. The name list for the consort selection ceremony is as follows. Grotto Heaven Cliff, Lin Miao, Lin Shuangshuang, Su Xiaoyan. Dugyu. Digression, 6 p.m. Chapter 1066. Dugyu. Lin Tianfeng and the others were shocked when they heard this name. How could her name be on the list? A young lady beside Chu Liwei lost her balance and directly dropped the wine cup in her hands onto the floor. Bang! The crisp sound of a jade cup shattering rang out, immediately drawing everyone's gazes over. The hall fell silent. Rong Xiu looked over and raised his eyebrows. Patriarch Lin, what's wrong? Lin Tianfeng hurriedly stood up. Your Highness, this Miss Dugu isn't on the Heavenly Cave Cliffs list. Oh? Rong Xiu seemed surprised. He raised his voice and said to Yan Qing, let me have a look. Yan Qing hurriedly presented the booklet with both hands. Rong Xiu took it and scrutinized it. He then looked up and lightly said, I'm sorry. He raised his head and said, Duguyu's name is clearly written on it. If Patriarch Lin doesn't believe me, you can take a look for yourself. Lin Tianfeng choked. How could he not believe His Highness the Holy Sun's words? But this can't be right. The list had been delivered to Rong Xiu before Duguyu went to Heavenly Cave Cliff. Moreover, he knew that Duguyu had brought her child to find her husband. How could he dare to add her name to the list? There must be a mistake. Lin Tianfeng swallowed with difficulty. His face was tense and his body was tense. Even though he had seen his fair share of storms, he was still stunned by this scene. The others present didn't know Duguyu's background, but he did. If someone found out, wouldn't it be, Patriarch Lin, Are you saying that the Yuntian Tower made a mistake with this booklet? Rong Xiu leaned back in his chair and asked lazily. Although he spoke casually, how could Lin Tianfeng admit to this? It wasn't like he was tired of living. Why would he publicly criticize the people of Yuntian Tower for their incompetence? I didn't mean that. Lin Tianfeng's voice was much weaker. Rong Xiu smiled and threw the booklet back to Yan Qing. Forget it. This matter can't be explained in a short time. Let's leave it at that for now. It won't be too late to investigate after the matter is over. Everyone? This is your concubine selection list. How can you say it so easily? But since Rong Xiu had already spoken, the others naturally couldn't say anything. What's more, there were many people participating in the consort selection ceremony, so it didn't matter if she was there or not. Such a woman with no background was nothing to worry about. Yan Qing held the booklet and felt her hands burning. He lowered his eyes again and looked at the words, Dugiyu, that had clearly just been added. His heart was in turmoil. No wonder His Highness wasn't anxious at all. He was waiting here. Rong Xiu's slender and fair fingers tapped on the table. Continue. Yan Qing took a deep breath and was about to continue reading. Han, wait. Yan Qing was abruptly interrupted as soon as he opened his mouth. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The speaker was none other than Jianghu, who had followed Rong Xiu in just now. She looked at Rong Xiu, who was sitting at the head of the table, and frowned slightly. Her face was obviously disapproving. Your Highness, this seems inappropriate. Everyone became quieter. Ziwan. Jiang Hetian, who was next to her, frowned and called out to her in warning. Jiang Jiwan ignored him. She pursed her lips and continued. Just now, Patriarch Lin has said that Miss Dugu is not a member of Dongtian Cliff. Logically speaking, she is not qualified to be on the list. Your Highness, it's a little inappropriate for you to ignore it, isn't it? Everyone looked at each other. Jiang Jiwan's words were not without reason. Those who could come here were the most outstanding women of their respective tribes. It was indeed strange for Dugiyu to suddenly appear on the list and become one of the candidates. Rong Xiu glanced at her indifferently. Today, not all of the women here are from the main families of the tribes. According to what you said, shouldn't they be removed from the list as well? Jiang Jiwan was speechless and bit her lips. Your Highness, you know I didn't mean that. What does eldest Miss Jiang mean? Only eldest Miss Jiang knows. How would I know? Rong Xiu seemed to smile, but there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was alienating her from the inside out. Jiang Jun was stunned, and then a trace of embarrassment appeared in her eyes. After seeing Rong Xiu today, she was full of joy, but then she realized that he didn't seem to want to pay attention to her. She didn't take it too seriously because he had always been so cold. But now, in front of so many people, he didn't give her any face at all. Jiang Jiwan felt very wronged. Just as she was about to say something, Jiang Hetian spoke up. Your Highness, please forgive me for offending you. He chuckled. Your Highness, you know that this girl was spoiled by the chief when she was young, so she was a little rude. Please forgive me, Your Highness, I will teach her well when we go back. At the mention of the chief, Rong Xiu's eyes darkened and his thin lips curled up. Of course not. It's a pity that the chief is now in seclusion. Otherwise, he would be very happy to see Miss Jiang. The smile on Jiang Hetian's face froze. For some reason, the chief had been in seclusion since a few years ago, and he still hadn't come out after so long. During this time, Rong Xiu had completely taken control of the Yuntian Tower. For the past few years, he had been avoiding Rong Xiu's limelight, but he didn't expect him to be more domineering than expected. Jiang Hetian smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything else. Father, why don't you let me continue? Jiang Jiwan couldn't help but ask. Jiang Hetian frowned. What else do you want to say? Don't you understand what His Highness the Chosen Saint means? But why? That Dugiyu is clearly not qualified, and even the chief of the Lin family said that he didn't mention her name. Why does Your Highness have to go through so much trouble when it can be solved with just one sentence? Jiang Hetian was getting impatient. Why are you always so hung up on this problem? It's just Dugyu, isn't it? Even if she joined in, would it affect the final result in any way? Other things aside, just her appearance and figure alone make her no match at all. Is it worth it to quarrel with His Highness over such an insignificant person? Jianghu was speechless for a moment. As long as you perform well later, you'll be able to get the position of princess consort. There's no one more suitable than you to ascend to this position. Jiang Hetian advised in a sincere and heartfelt manner. Jiang Jiwan could only nod. But for some reason, when she thought of the conversation between His Highness and that woman, she felt a little uneasy. Yan Qing continued. Han, wait. Another voice sounded. Everyone looked over and saw that it was Duguyu who spoke this time. The corners of her lips curled slightly, and she said with a smile. I think eldest young Miss Jiang is right. Your Highness the Chosen Saint, please cross out my name. Chapter 1067. As soon as he finished speaking, the hall fell into a deathly silence. Yan Qing's heart skipped a beat, and he turned to look at his master. On the throne, Rong Xiu's expression froze for a moment. But that momentary stiffness quickly dissipated. But his eyes gradually became as cold and lonely as a cold lake, and his whole body emitted a shocking chill. He smiled slightly and said softly, What did you say? What did you say? Say it again. The atmosphere became strange. Many people inexplicably felt a dangerous and cold aura. The space seemed to freeze inch by inch. Chu Liuyue's smile did not change. Just now, Patriarch Lin has already made it very clear that my name is not in the list of candidates. As for why my name appeared on the list, it's actually not important. Your Highness can just cross my name off the list. It's convenient for everyone, isn't it? This kind of excitement doesn't seem very suitable for me to participate. Your Highness, don't you think so? As she spoke, she turned to look at Yan Qing. Such a small matter, Your Highness, you don't have to do it yourself. Yan Qing can do it for you. Lady Yan Qing, please? Yan Qing's hand that was holding the booklet trembled slightly. He was wrong. He should not have invited her on behalf of His Highness from the beginning. Not to mention that he was rejected, it was difficult for him to withdraw now. Why was his life so miserable? He had no choice but to say, I'm of a lowly status and have no right to do so. Rong Xiu's eyes were deep. He looked at Chu Luiyue as if he wanted to tear him apart and eat him. Are you sure? Yan Qing looked at Chu Luiyue pleadingly. Please, of course I'm sure. Chu Liuyue's smile deepened. After all, I already have a fiancé. Everyone was in an uproar. So Duguyu already had a fiancé? Did His Highness know about it? From the looks of it, he probably didn't know, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed to leave her name on the booklet. But to reject the saint in front of him was really a little embarrassing. Lin Tianfeng and the others also looked at Chu Luiyue in shock. Fiancé? Not my husband? But Debao, just as everyone was whispering, Rong Xiu suddenly chuckled and opened his mouth. So what? In an instant, almost all the sounds disappeared. Countless pairs of eyes stared at Rong Xiu in astonishment. Then what about? What did that mean? Jiang Jiwan's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and the feeling of uneasiness grew stronger. At this time, the others present also felt that something was wrong and kept quiet. The air was so tense that it was almost suffocating. Rong Xiu didn't seem to notice the crowd that was shocked by his words. He leaned back lazily with a faint smile on his face. As long as you let him stand out and oppose this matter, I will let it go. Treacherous. Chu Luiyue secretly gritted his teeth. He knew that this man was black-hearted, but he did not expect that he would not stop until he had dug his own grave. How could he say something like that? He was really shameless. Chu Luiyue almost couldn't hold it in and wanted to curse out loud. Even Duga Mabao, who had been quiet all this time, could not help but lift his eyelids when he heard this. A dark light flashed in his demonic purple eyes. This kid was still the same as before. No, he had become even more powerful. To achieve his goal, he would do anything. Now, in front of so many people, he did not care about his face at all. Lin Tianfeng felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He did not expect that things would develop to this point. If he still could not see through His Highness's intentions, he would have wasted all these years. Wasn't it obvious that he wanted Duguyu to participate in the consort selection? He did not need to ask to know how that name appeared on the list. But the key was that Duguyu had already said that she had a fiancé, and His Highness still said that, no matter how high her fiancé's status was, could it be higher than His Highness? Not to mention whether that man was here now, even if he was, would he dare to stand out when His Highness said so? At this point, there seemed to be no solution to the matter. Lin Tianfeng could not help but look at Chu Luiwei, and then at Dugu Mabao, who had been quietly standing beside her, and sighed. This child was only 3 or 4 years old. How innocent! He hesitated for a moment and was about to speak when Lin Qifei pulled him back. "Father, please calm down." Lin Tianfeng was a little hesitant. "But Her Highness is really... She is alone. If we don't help her then..." Lin Qifei shook his head lightly. "Let's wait and see. If you stand out now, you won't be of much help." Lin Tianfeng knew that he was telling the truth. Grotto Heaven Cliff did not have a high status, and it was all because of Duguyu that they were able to receive such treatment. If His Highness wanted to do something, even the Jiang clan in the Immortal Water Tomb could not stop him, let alone them. In the end, Lin Tianfeng could only nod his head. "No matter what, she saved your life. If anything happens, we can't just sit by and do nothing." Lin Qifei nodded lightly. There seemed to be an undercurrent in his light eyes. He looked at Rong Xiu and Chu Luiwei without batting an eyelid, then lowered his eyes. The relationship between these two. What's so good about that Duguyu? His Highness has taken a liking to her? In a secluded corner of the main hall, the people in Cold Mountain Valley were stunned by the scene before them. Han Zishu's eyes widened in disbelief. With that kind of appearance, that kind of background, and most importantly, she already has a fiancé. How could she win His Highness's favor? What is His Highness thinking? Shoo! Han Quan still had a bit of rationality left and hurriedly stopped her. "Don't criticize His Highness." Han Zishu shrank back, but her face was still filled with dissatisfaction. "I'm just curious. What the hell is going on? I don't know how that bitch bewitched His Highness." Before they could finish their sentence, a young woman in front suddenly turned around. Her makeup was exquisite, and her looks were top-notch. Clearly, she was also here to participate in the consort selection. But at this moment, there was a hint of mockery on her face. She looked at Han Zishu and the others as if she was looking at fools. "Don't say things like that. Be careful not to be overheard by others. That Miss Duke, who was acquainted with His Highness in the past. If you're not afraid of getting into trouble, go ahead and continue." With that, she turned around with a cold smile. Not only were they late, but they were also brainless. These people in Cold Mountain Valley were really tired of living. Han Zishu and the others were confused. That Duguyu knew His Highness the Saint? How could it be? In this atmosphere that was almost suffocating, Chu Luiwei was the first to recover from her shock. She narrowed her eyes and suddenly smiled. "Your Highness, what if I insist on saying no?" Digression, it felt good to cheat his wife. It felt good to cheat her all the time. Chapter 1068. Little you, why is your temper still so stubborn? At this moment, a low and old voice suddenly came from outside. Everyone looked toward the door. An elder suddenly came in. There wasn't the slightest bit of origin power fluctuations on his body, but the inexplicable aura around him caused people to secretly feel reverence. This was definitely a top-notch expert. Chu Luiwei was slightly stunned. The reason for that was because she knew that old man. 36 Respected Elder Ming, why are you here? Rong Xiu was about to stand up and welcome him personally when 36 Respected Elder Ming hurriedly waved his hand. His Highness the Holy Sun's birthday banquet, and it's also a concubine selection ceremony. We naturally have to come and join in the fun. At this moment, after hearing the identity of the person who came, everyone also stood up and bowed. Greetings to 36 respected Elder Ming. Many people were secretly shocked. This was an expert among the experts of the Yuntian Tower. Even among the dozens of respected elders, he was definitely the one with the highest strength and status. Usually, 36 respected Elder Ming was mostly invisible and never got involved in these matters. Who knew what had happened today, for him to suddenly come? 36 respected Elder Ming laughed loudly. I just came out of seclusion and heard about this. Naturally, I rushed over without stopping. As he spoke, his gaze fell on Ming Yao, who was at the side. Ming Yao quivered and hurriedly bowed in greeting. Respected Elder, why did you come out of seclusion today? No one actually came to inform us in advance. Apologies for not coming out to welcome you. I hope, after I came out of seclusion, I immediately rushed over when I heard the news. Naturally, no one informed us. 36 respected Elder Ming snorted. If I came a little later, wouldn't I have missed this meticulously planned and lively banquet today? Ming Yao was drenched in cold sweat and didn't know what to say for a moment. It seemed that 36 respected Elder Ming already knew everything. He was the one who did his best to facilitate the concubine selection. Previously, 36 respected Elder Ming had repeatedly warned him not to have any ideas about this. However, he still secretly did it when 36 respected Elder Ming was in seclusion. He had originally thought that by the time this person came out of seclusion, everything would have been settled. At that time, even if 36 respected Elder Ming was dissatisfied, what was done could not be undone, and he would not be able to say much. I didn't expect him to appear so quickly. This time, he was caught red-handed. Just when Ming Yao thought that 36 respected Elder Ming might criticize him severely in front of everyone, he saw that 36 respected Elder Ming did not say anything more to him. Instead, he turned around and walked to the other side. Under everyone's gaze, he walked to Lin Tianfeng's table. This was actually the first time Lin Tianfeng had seen this legendary existence. However, he was very clear that 36 revered Elder Ming had also come to find Duguyu. As expected, 36 respected Elder Ming's gaze landed on Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei frowned slightly, but soon relaxed as a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. Honorable Elder 36 Ming? Ming 36 was stared at by her clear, dark eyes and immediately felt guilty. He clenched his fist and coughed. Cough, lass. His Highness the Holy Sun has spoken words of gold. How can you go back on your words in front of everyone? Just treat it as if you're participating for fun. Anyway, it won't affect anything, right? Everyone was confused. Participating for fun? 36 respected Elder Ming, is it really appropriate for you to say that? So many people present have a cautious and expectant attitude towards this matter. What do you mean by letting Duguyu participate for fun? Looking at 36 respected Elder Ming's expression, Chu Luiwei suddenly had a thought. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at Rong Xiu, who was sitting at the head of the table, without batting an eyelid. Rong Xiu nodded slightly. Chu Luiwei's eyes flickered. All right. With 36 respected Elder Ming's interference and Chu Luiwei's help, this matter finally proceeded smoothly. The atmosphere was a little strange. Many people started whispering to each other. So 36 respected Elder Ming actually knows that Duguyu? What exactly is her background? I'm not sure. But since she came with those people from Cave Heaven Cliff's Lin family, logically speaking, she shouldn't be of noble birth, right? That's true. But His Highness the Holy Sun and 36 respected Elder Ming's attitude towards her seems to be very unusual. This girl looks ordinary. I really don't know what His Highness sees in her. So what? Today, all the noble ladies of the various clans are here. How can there be a place for her to stand? But then again, why is only 36 respected Elder Ming here for such an important occasion? Where are the other respected elders? Perhaps the other respected elders have their own matters to deal with or are cultivating. Didn't you see that 36 respected Elder Ming also came out of seclusion and hurried over? Moreover, not all the respected elders of Yuntian Tower are convinced by His Highness the Holy Sun. Shoo, we can't say such things. Everyone was discussing. Jiang Jiwon slowly pinched the corner of her clothes. Jiang Hetian turned back to look at her and saw her aggrieved eyes. He sighed and comforted her. All right, Ziyuan. Daddy knows that you are aggrieved, but His Highness the Holy Sun has always been like this. No one can stop him from doing what he wants to do. Don't worry. According to Duguyu's status, even if she is chosen, she will at most have the fate of a concubine. She doesn't even have the qualifications to be a concubine, let alone a princess consort. You don't have to worry, I'm not worried about this. Jiang Zun bit her lips, and her voice was choked with sobs. I'm just sad. He must be interested in this girl. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this. She had known him for so long, but he had never done anything especially for her. How could she not be sad when compared to him? What made it even harder for her to accept was that Duguyu didn't seem to want to accept her kindness even though she was being so generous. Rong Xiu was the most handsome man in the world. How could her so-called fiancé compare to him? Jiang Hetian patted her hand. As long as the person sitting next to him is you, he will be yours for the rest of his life. As for the rest, why should you care? These words finally made Jiang Jiwon snap out of her daze. She held back the tears in her eyes, nodded her head forcefully, and said stubbornly, "Of course I won't let others take away everything that belongs to me." Jiang Hetian heaved a sigh of relief and slowly smiled. This is the young mistress of the Jiang clan in the Immortal Water Tomb. You are my precious daughter. Jiang Jiwon pursed her lips and looked up slightly at Chu Luiyue. Thinking about everything that had happened just now, she felt even more uncomfortable. How could such a girl stay by his side? It would be best to find a way to chase her out from the beginning. Umo quickly brought a chair over and invited 36 respected elder Ming to sit to the left of Rong Xiu. As Chu Luiyue listened to the crowd's discussion, she glanced over. Rong Xiu seemed to have specially prepared seats for the respected elders. Chapter 1069. Miss Dugu, it turns out that you even know 36 respected elder Ming? Lin Tianfeng's current feelings could no longer be described as shock. First, it was Lord Yanqing, then His Highness the Holy Sun, and now even the reclusive 36 respected elder Ming was familiar with her. Was she really just an ordinary outsider? He wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Chu Luiyue regained her senses and nodded nonchalantly. We're not very familiar with each other, we've met a few times. Lin Tianfeng's eyes were filled with resentment. How could she have such an attitude after meeting him a few times? It was rumored that 36 respected elder Ming didn't even care about the Ming clan's matters. If it was really nothing, why would he say such things to her? Lin Tianfeng felt that he couldn't understand the woman in front of him anymore. She looked ordinary, but she was able to cure Ji Fei's illness as an 8th-grade celestial physician. She seemed to have no background, but she had dealings with the most honorable person in Yuntian Tower. She seemed to be hiding many secrets that couldn't be seen through. Lin Qifei looked at her meaningfully, then his gaze swept past Dugumabao. Perhaps his guess was true. Then, Yan Qing was finally able to continue reading from the booklet. Fortunately, there were no more accidents after that. When he finished reading, he closed the booklet and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Rong Xiu leaned against the chair, languid and calm, with a noble aura that came from his bones. I like to play chess, and I also like women who play chess well. So, the first round is chess. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves and countless silver lights flew out. The bright lights intertwined in midair and quickly formed a huge chessboard in the center of the hall. Whoever can play with eye to the end will be the winner of this round. The hall was silent for a moment, and then there were whispers. Who would have thought that His Highness the Holy Sun's first round of choosing a consort would be a game of chess? However, many people knew that His Highness the Holy Sun liked to play chess. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with doing this. Jiang Hetian glanced at Jiang Jiwon with a smile. Don't you usually like and are good at this? From this, it can be seen that His Highness still cares about you. Jiang Jiwon's cheeks were dyed with a touch of crimson, and she was a little shy. Father, Don't tease me. Did father say something wrong? You've been learning chess from the patriarch since you were 3 years old, and your skills are exquisite. There are very few people in the world who can defeat you. Who else but you can claim first place? Jiang Jiwan's face turned even redder. Looking at the shining chessboard, her eyes were filled with excitement and joy. It seemed that he did remember. Yan Qing asked, "Who wants to be the first to come up and give it a try?" Everyone immediately quieted down. Soon, a voice came from the crowd. Yunwu Mountain's Pei Pei is willing to give it a try. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. It was a woman in a crimson outfit. She was tall and slender. She had a fair oval face and delicate facial features. Among the many women who dressed up meticulously, she wasn't the top beauty. However, the valiant and heroic spirit between her eyebrows added a different kind of elegance to her. She had a wide saber at her waist, as if she was ready to draw it and fight at any time. After saying that, she walked straight to the center of the hall and stood on the huge chessboard. "The eldest miss of Yunwu Mountain. I heard that she has a fierce personality and does things in a hurry. Seeing her today, it's true. She dares to be the first to go up. She's really brave. I wonder how many steps she can take. I heard that His Highness the Holy Sun's chess skills are very good. No matter how many steps she can take, she can still show her face in front of His Highness. At least it's better than being unknown, right?" No matter how the people around her discussed, Pei Pei acted as if she didn't hear them. She raised her chin and looked at Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu said, "Miss Pei, please go first." "Thank you, Your Highness." Pei Pei responded with a grunt, and then started very nimbly. Dark red force gathered in her palm. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she hit the chessboard with the force. Buzz. A slight fluctuation was felt. A dark red round chess piece instantly appeared on the chessboard. "Your Highness, please." However, just as Pei Pei finished speaking, a golden chess piece quickly appeared on the chessboard. Rong Xiu said indifferently, "This chessboard contains all the chess games that I have seen and played. Therefore, it can automatically place a piece." Pei Pei was stunned. "In other words, if I can't play a new game, Your Highness won't make a move personally?" Rong Xiu nodded. Regretful sighs could be heard in the hall. Some of the women who were ready to make a move immediately withered. Didn't this mean that if they couldn't play to the same level as His Highness, they wouldn't even have a chance to fight him? If they weren't strong enough, there was no point in going up. It would be very embarrassing. A hint of astonishment flashed across Pei Pei's face, but she quickly recovered. She didn't say anything and continued. However, every time she placed a piece, the chessboard would quickly react and give her a counter move. More importantly, with every move, the pressure on the chessboard would become heavier. Pei Pei gradually felt the pressure, and the speed at which she played slowed down. Finally, after about half an hour, Pei Pei was no longer able to withstand the terrifying pressure. No matter how she tried, the origin power she unleashed would dissipate an inch or so away from the chessboard. She couldn't place a piece at all. At this moment, everyone could see that this chessboard was much stronger and more complicated than they had expected. After another failed attempt, Pei Pei simply chose to give up. "I admit defeat." UMO was in charge of recording. Yunwu Mountain's Pei Pei, 11 moves. Everyone had different expressions. In fact, Pei Pei could already be considered as one of the most outstanding women among the many women. Although Yunwu Mountain couldn't be compared to the Immortal Water Mausoleum, it was still one of the top clans in terms of strength and resources. As for Pei Pei, she was a genius carefully nurtured by Yunwu Mountain. At the age of 21, she had already broken through to the peak of the 9th level. Even she could only play 11 moves on the chessboard, let alone others. Pei Pei didn't seem to care. After bowing to Rong Xiu, she simply went down. Yan Qing shouted in a deep voice. Everyone looked at each other and hesitated for a moment. However, the position of consort was too tempting. After some hesitation, many women still chose to give it a try. However, most of them couldn't even compare to Pei Pei. Some couldn't even place a piece on the chessboard. Thus, although many people tried, it didn't take long. Soon, everyone gradually calmed down. At this time, those who dared to go up had all done so. Only 2 women were more outstanding than Pei Pei, but they couldn't even make 20 moves. In the silence, many people looked at Jianghu. Chapter 1070. Jianghu of the Tomb of Immortal Water was a famous genius in the Divine Ruins world. Jianghu stood up, walked toward the huge chessboard, and stood still. She was beautiful to begin with, and today, she had dressed up meticulously. Naturally, she looked even more alluring. Moreover, she had only put on light makeup, and her outfit was simple and elegant. Compared to the other women who had put on makeup, she looked even more elegant and refined. Under the faint glow of the chessboard, she stood tall, graceful, and gentle. She had already surpassed the other women before her. She glanced at the chessboard, raised her hand, and placed a blue chess piece. Like before, the chessboard reacted quickly, and a golden chess piece appeared in another position. Jianghu didn't hesitate at all, and continued to place her chess piece. Time passed slowly. Jianghu had already made 20 moves, becoming the person who had made the most moves so far, but she still didn't stop. In fact, she didn't even slow down the speed of her chess game. Compared to the others before her, she was clearly much more relaxed. The hall gradually quieted down, and everyone had different expressions. Only a few people were discussing and exclaiming in low voices. As expected of the young miss of the Tomb of Immortal Water. Her strength is indeed not something that we can compare to. It's been rumored that she's going to be the princess consort. Now, who else could it be? She's only 22 this year, right? I heard that she's already become a demigod. Hiss. No wonder she's so powerful. This kind of appearance, this kind of background, really can't be compared. I heard that when she was young, she spent most of her time in the Yuntian Tower, and the Yuntian Tower's patriarch has always doted on her. Her chess skills were also learned from him. Does this mean that His Highness the Holy Sun set up this test for her? Jianghu was focused on her chess game, but she wasn't weak, and her 5 senses were sharp, so she could hear most of what was being said. A sweet feeling welled up in her heart. She placed another chess piece, and at the same time, looked at Rong Xiu, who was sitting at the head of the table, and smiled. Your Highness, please take this. With this move, it was time for him to make a move. However, when she placed her chess piece, another golden chess piece appeared on the chessboard. Jianghu's smile froze on her face. Chu Luiwei poured a glass of wine out of boredom. I thought that this eldest Miss Jiang was really powerful, but I didn't expect. Did she overestimate herself, or did God underestimate Rong Xiu? Did he really think that he could force Rong Xiu to act personally? Looking at the huge chessboard again, she suddenly narrowed her eyes and leaned closer to Dugu Debeo, who was sitting at the side, and lowered her voice. Debeo, why do I feel that this chessboard is somewhat familiar? Dugu Mabao's expression did not change. All chessboards in the world look the same. What's there to be familiar about? Something's not right. Chu Luiwei shook his head and said firmly. I must have seen it before, this aura. Suddenly, her pupils shrank, and she looked at Dugu Mabao in disbelief. You pulled me down before. Bang. There was a sudden explosion on the chessboard. A terrifying impact spread out in all directions. Jianghu was caught off guard, and she was the first to bear the brunt of it, and instantly flew out. Zuan. Jiang Heyan was shocked, and he immediately got up and threw out a force. Jianghu's body was instantly enveloped by a translucent barrier. With the help of this barrier, Jianghu finally landed safely. She looked at the chessboard in shock. The blue chess piece on it was already in a dead end. Digression, continue at 6 p.m. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.